This story is titled, I Caught My Partner Texting Someone Late at Night, and they immediately deleted the messages when I walked in. I never imagined my life would unravel like this. My name is Claire, 52 years old, and I've been married to David for 27 years. We built a life together through struggles, triumphs, and moments that defined us. Our home, a modest but warm house in Illinois, had seen laughter, tears, and quiet companionship. I thought we were solid. I thought we understood each other. But that night, that single, seemingly ordinary night, cracked something in me that I don't think will ever heal. It started with a whisper of suspicion. Not a full-blown fear, just a quiet, nagging feeling. David had been distant lately, his laughter hollow, his eyes clouded with something unreadable. I told myself I was overthinking, that long-term marriages had phases like this. But when I saw the glow of his phone screen at 12:43 a.m., illuminating his face in the dim bedroom, my heart clenched. I shifted slightly, pretending to be asleep, and watched from the corner of my eye. His fingers danced over the screen, tapping quickly, hesitating, then typing again. The expression on his face wasn't one of casual conversation. It was intense, focused, almost emotional. David? My voice was soft, but it still made him jolt like I'd caught him committing a crime. His head snapped toward me, his body stiff, his fingers moving with lightning speed. Then, just like that, he swiped up and deleted everything. "What are you doing?" I asked, my heart thudding against my ribs. "Just checking something for work." His voice was controlled, too controlled. At midnight, he hesitated for a fraction of a second, just enough for doubt to bloom in my chest. "Yeah. Time zones. The guys in Japan needed a report." I sat up. "Let me see your phone." It wasn't an accusation. Not yet. Just a request. A test. A desperate hope that he would hand it over and I'd see nothing. That he'd roll his eyes and call me paranoid before proving me wrong. But he didn't. Instead, he pulled the phone away, locking it with a swift press of his thumb. "Claire, come on," he sighed, rubbing his forehead like I was exhausting him. "You don't trust me?" That was the moment it all changed. That single question, laced with irritation instead of reassurance, made my stomach drop. Because no, I didn't trust him. Not in that moment. Not with the way his pulse visibly pounded at his neck. Not with the way he turned away instead of facing me. "I saw you delete something," I whispered. "Who were you talking to?" David swung his legs over the side of the bed, running a hand through his graying hair. "It's nothing, Claire. You're making a big deal out of nothing." But it wasn't nothing. A marriage doesn't unravel in one moment, but sometimes there is a moment where you know, where the foundation tilts, where the certainty you've lived in for decades suddenly feels like sand slipping between your fingers. I needed proof. Not for revenge, not even for confrontation, but for my own sanity. The next morning, I acted normal. I kissed David goodbye, made my coffee, and sat at the kitchen table staring at my wedding ring. The gold band felt heavier than usual. By noon, I had a plan. David was meticulous about his privacy, but he wasn't as tech-savvy as he liked to think. I knew his phone habits, his passcode patterns, and I knew one thing for certain: people always leave breadcrumbs, even when they think they've erased everything. That night, after David fell asleep, I carefully slid his phone from the nightstand. My hands were shaking. It felt like betrayal, but so did his secrecy. The first thing I checked was his deleted messages. Nothing. But then I went to his email. And there it was. A notification for a messaging app I didn't recognize. An app he had never mentioned. An app I was sure he didn't use to talk to his colleagues in Japan. I clicked the link. My breath hitched. It took me to a login page, one that required a password I didn't have. But I wasn't stupid. I knew what this meant. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't an overreaction. David was hiding something. Or someone. My heart pounded as I stared at him in the dim light of our bedroom. His face was relaxed in sleep, the same face I had memorized over decades of love. But now, I felt like I was looking at a stranger. I could feel the cracks deepening. The next day, I didn't say anything. I needed more. If I confronted him too soon, he would find a way to twist it, to make me doubt myself. So, I waited, I watched, and within days, I found what I was looking for. A second phone. It was hidden in the glove compartment of his car, wrapped in an old sock like some pathetic attempt at deception. My hands trembled as I pulled it out, my breath coming in short, sharp gasps. I turned it on, and what I saw shattered me. Messages, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, and pictures. Some innocent, some not. And a name. A woman I had never heard of. A woman whose name now burned itself into my soul like a scar. I scrolled through the messages, my vision blurring with tears. Some were flirtatious. Others were deeper. Conversations that spoke of connection, of inside jokes, of something far worse than just physical betrayal. He loved her, or at least he thought he did. I had seen enough. The moment I placed the phone back in its hiding spot, something in me shifted. The woman I was before, the one who trusted blindly, who believed in the unshakable bond of 27 years, was gone. Now I was someone else, someone who had a choice to make, and I wasn't going to let him make it for me. The weight of the secret I now carried felt unbearable. My hands trembled as I gripped the steering wheel, staring blankly at the road ahead. I had just discovered that my husband, my partner of 27 years, had been lying to me, deceiving me, loving someone else. Rebecca. The name echoed in my mind like a cruel joke. Who was she? How long had this been going on? Did she know about me? About our home, our children, our shared history? A part of me wanted to storm into the house and throw his second phone at him, demand an explanation, demand truth. But deep down, I already knew the truth. David wasn't the man I thought he was. Or maybe he had been once, but he wasn't anymore. I took a deep breath, forcing the tears back. Not yet. If I was going to confront him, I needed control. I needed proof. That evening, I was quiet. Too quiet. David noticed. "You okay?" he asked, sitting beside me on the couch. His voice was casual, but there was an edge to it. "I'm fine," I lied, offering a small smile. He studied me for a moment, then nodded, turning his attention back to his phone. I watched as he typed something quickly before flipping the screen downward on the coffee table. My stomach twisted. He was talking to her. Right in front of me. I excused myself and went to the bedroom, my heart hammering against my ribs. I needed to know more. If he thought he could play this game without consequences, he was wrong. That night, after he fell asleep, I retrieved the second phone from his car again. This time, I took pictures of everything. The messages, the call logs, the photos he had sent. I was no longer acting on impulse. I was preparing for battle. The next morning, I made my decision. I called an attorney. David had no idea that while he was sipping his coffee, scrolling through his phone, probably messaging her, I was speaking to someone who would help me dismantle the life we had built together. "Gather financial records," the lawyer advised. "Make copies of everything. Do not let him suspect anything until you're ready." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "And what about proof of the affair?" She hesitated. "Infidelity can play a role, but what matters most is ensuring you're protected financially. Do you have joint accounts?" I swallowed hard. "Yes." "Then be careful. Some spouses drain accounts when they suspect a divorce is coming." A chill ran down my spine. David wouldn't do that, would he? Then again, I hadn't thought he was capable of betraying me either. For the next few weeks, I played my role perfectly. I smiled when needed, laughed at the right moments, pretended I was the same trusting wife I had always been, all while I built my case in silence. I learned more than I ever wanted to. Rebecca was younger, mid-40s, divorced, lived in a nearby city. They had met at a business conference last year. What started as casual flirting had turned into late-night confessions, stolen weekends, whispered promises. It wasn't just physical. He loved her. That realization broke me more than anything else. Because if it had just been about sex, maybe I could have chalked it up to a midlife crisis, a mistake, something we could work through. But love? He had given away a part of himself that I thought belonged to me. One evening, as David laughed at something on his phone, I finally let my mask slip. "She must be funny," I said, my voice smooth, calm. David stiffened. "What?" I gestured to his phone. "Rebecca, she must be funny." His face drained of color. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I watched as his mind scrambled for a way out. A lie, an excuse, but I was done listening to lies. I pulled out his second phone and placed it on the table between us. His eyes widened. His lips parted, but no words came. "I know everything, David," I whispered. "Every message, every call, every lie." For a long moment he just stared at me. Then slowly his shoulders slumped. "Claire?" He breathed, running a hand over his face. "I didn't want—" "Don't." My voice was sharp, cutting through whatever excuse he was about to offer. "You did want this. You wanted her. You chose her. And now I'm choosing myself." He swallowed hard, his atoms apple-bobbing. "What does that mean?" "It means I spoke to a lawyer," I said, watching the fear flicker in his eyes. "It means I know about the hidden bank account you set up. It means I have every bit of evidence I need to ensure you don't walk away from this unscathed." The silence between us was suffocating. "Claire, please," he whispered. "It was a mistake." I shook my head. "No, David. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying something hurtful in anger. This was a choice. Repeated. deliberate, and now you live with the consequences. I stood up, my hands steady, my heart no longer racing. I wasn't broken anymore. I wasn't the woman sobbing alone in the car, feeling like her world had ended. No, I was the woman who had just taken her life back. As I walked away, leaving him in stunned silence, I realized something. The worst part wasn't losing David. It was realizing I had already lost him long ago, and I was finally ready to let him go. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts below. Have you ever uncovered a truth you wished you hadn't? Share your stories, and let's talk.